What's up? Welcome back. I had a few people asking about some more details on this smudge pot heater. We ran it by itself last night, was able to maintain 60 and 65 degrees in here. As you can see with the tarp as a door right now, it's pretty good. We got down to I think 14 degrees, 14 to 19, somewhere in that range last night. It wasn't terrible, but there's a few things I want to show you on this, how it works. You could probably make this better than I did, but this is just what I have with the scraps that I had. So if you haven't seen yet, that was what I've been using, and I'm actually currently using it right now. I've got it turned way down. Thing is, it's done very well, but that's not designed to heat this type of a place up. But let me explain this. So this actually is cold to the touch because it hasn't been on today. I won't run this unless I'm here with it. But this comes to about middle of the pipe and aims down. When it draws in, heat rises and it'll draw a vacuum right here. It's sucking in clean air, which is mixing right here, and it's causing a turbulence. The air that shoots out here, I've only have that in, which I can't see up in there. I don't have a way for you to be able to really see up in here, but that is only in there a couple inches, like 2, maybe 2.5 inches into this pot. There's nothing in this. This was an air tank, like a charge it up style air tank. That was actually where the valve was. I cut that off to do this, and I'm gonna explain what I did here in a minute to maybe help you guys out. So you put the oil in there, light you a fire, and as the heat rises, it's drawing in some oxygen right here. That's only half the story. But it's throwing air right in the middle, and it'll start bubbling. And like you'll see it start to mix the oil. As the oil gets hotter, every time it pulses, it's vaporizing, and the vapors are actually what's burning. Not the oil itself, but the vapor from it. So it will get violently out of control if you take that off. So what I ended up doing, I started out with a way smaller pipe and it wouldn't work. I am going to fire this up here in a minute. That's just some paper to get it started. But and it's not full, I just don't have it shoved down in there. So I started out with a pipe that was way too small. I ended up going to a 3-inch piece of exhaust pipe. I swelled this up on the sweller, plated it off. So what I'll do is I'll get the fire going, then I'll slowly put it on there. If it chokes it out a little too much, I'll pull it off, let it catch its breath, and then do that. So as you can see, I started off with a very small hole, and then I kept going and going and going until I got about there. Then I found that once the oil got really good and warm, it wasn't happy. So I drilled another one. It was a little happier, and I drilled that. Now this will be dependent on, how well you have it mounted here with how much you need here. So that isn't enough airflow to keep the fire alive. You have to have something else. If I smother this, the fire goes out. Likewise, if you open it up and are standing in front of it, you're looking down the end of a barrel, and yes, it'll puff a big cloud of black smoke, and if you're lucky, you can get out of the way in time. If not, that big pluff of black smoke, it blows up. Ask me how I know. I've been just aiming the heat of that off onto this, and it kind of just maintains it a little bit to keep the tank warm. That way when I do start it, it isn't an ice cold pot. I found that I only want to put about a half a gallon at a time in this. If you have a larger shop, I would advise you to build a bigger pot. That way you can hold more oil. If I put too much oil in this thing, it kind of gets, well, as you can see, very hot. That will glow. This is a piece of exhaust pipe from a coal truck stack, 5-inch. That's pretty thick stuff, and it'll glow cherry red, especially on this back side. That is some thin wall stove pipe I got from the hardware store. They didn't have any thicker 5-inch. All they had was this galvanized. I'm not happy with it, and I will be replacing it. It's wow. It's trying to blow apart on up in there. I didn't even know it was blowed that bad, but I knew it was getting there. I just didn't know it was that bad. I'll have to tie that up. But anyways, it's getting very hot. It's drawing in air. And that's why we end up having to regulate it down. If you put too much oil in it, it gets violent. Now right now, I'm just gonna aim with my pointer here. Like right in here, you'll see 500 degrees. In that area, you'll see 300, 200. And by the time we get up here, we're 180. And then about 130, 150 in that range with the holes that I have. Right now, 50 degrees. And this thing's turned pretty well down. I don't know if you can see that. 3.8. .4 hertz. Put it back how I had it. This thing does blow pretty hot, but it just doesn't have the volume it needs. I'm pretty sure that's one of the smaller ones they sell. I don't know if it doesn't say it on it, but that would be fine in somebody's smaller shop, not this. So I did add a fan to try to get a draft. I'll show you the angle. It ain't a very steep angle. And I was afraid if I mounted it here, it'd get way too hot and it'd melt it, because that is a cheap plastic fan. But it does throw the heat back away from the wall a little bit. And behind this is 2 layers of tin. Then you got the insulation, then the wood out back. But from about right here on, it's a single layer of tin. Well, that's the height extra. So from there on, it's a single layer of tin. I had some scrap stuff out back. All this tin is scrap stuff left over from when I done the roof. This is some corner pieces for the edge, well, the side pieces. And I done that to try to keep some heat off the 4x4. I didn't want to come in one day and find out I had a big problem with that. And so far, you can shoot the temp gun down in here, and you're only seeing 80, 90 degrees back behind it. So that's doing very well. So let me fire this up, show you the whole process of getting it actually started. I'm gonna try to show you the puffing. That way you can kind of see what it does till it does get up and running. We're gonna put about 1.5 quarts. It ain't terribly hot in here, or it ain't terribly cold in here, so I don't need it terribly hot. And as you can see, I've definitely spilled it in the floor. That was my last night's doing. Didn't quite get it down in there far enough. See if I can do this. Come on, Brandon. Hold on just a second. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. As you can see, it's already drawing air past it. But that oil's pretty cold, so. And I wouldn't normally hold this torch right here this long. I'm just trying to speed it up for the sake of the video. Hear it puffing. That's it drawing air back through that recirculation tube that we got over there. Let me get this ready. Now I'm gonna let this puff a little longer than I would normally do, just because I want to show you what it does. Try not to put my face in front of the barrel here. But you get the idea of how that's drawing oxygen in, recirculating it back down, getting a little hotter and a little hotter. Like I said, normally by now I've already about had the cap on it, because I don't want it to blow back out the tube at me. I'm just doing this for the sake of you guys getting to see it. Pipe's already starting to try to glow on the back. Alright guys, I'm gonna have to cap this off, get her calmed down a little bit. Give her a couple puffs. Yeah, it's glowing on the back side. I used some tie wire to tighten that up. You can hear it popping and cracking. I am going to have to replace this with the correct stuff. I was informed about some black, heavier gauge, thicker wall stuff. But also another problem I want to tell you about is if you put that cap on before it's ready, and you pull it off, and it's not all the way out, but you think it's out, something will happen that'll scare you. Sometimes it's quite a bit more violent. Just a few minutes in, that is already, it shouldn't be that hot. I just left it open for way too long. Yeah, that's reading well over 650 degrees, which is why that area is not happy. It's coming back down now. We're just a few minutes in. Now I'm gonna turn that fan on right quick. Do have that on high. So all it's doing is drawing air off the attic or off the loft across the top of this elbow. My main concern was trying to keep some heat off of this wall and keep the heat blowing back down. And it does a exceptional job. Last night the motor, it was 60 and 65 in here, and the motor ended up staying in the 70-degree range. And that is just a few minutes of this. I don't know what it was in here a minute ago, but it's doing very well already. So we can turn this back down and save some of the diesel. Actually, I will shut it off. Shut it off now. I haven't filled this back up. I filled it up this morning when I left for work around, well, I was late for work, but around 8 o'clock. And I don't know if we can see in there. It's used about a half a tank. A half a tank in a matter of 8 hours or so. It's not bad. Obviously it wasn't wide open, but this thing is calmed down and maintained. There's fire in the pipe, fire in the hole. There's only a quart and a half in here, so what I'll do is when I see this thing is cooling down to about 180 or so in this range, I'll come to the side, I'll pull the cap off, make sure I don't have any crazy popping and cracking going, and then I'll throw another quart or so in it. Now that is where an oil drip would come into play and be easier, but I really don't care what I'm doing. It's going to work absolutely fine. So there you have it. That was part 2 of the smudge pot. We're about a week in with this thing now. Pretty happy with it now that we got enough exhaust pipe out of the ceiling for it to work. We got the air control vent figured out. Thank you guys for following along. Hope you enjoyed part 2, and we'll see you on the next video.